This is the XS Noize Music Podcast. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 58 of the XS Noize Music Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I talked to Starsailor frontman James Walsh about the 20th anniversary reissue of their fantastic debut album, Love Is Here. If you missed last week's episode, I spoke with the Welling President's David Gage about the band's new project, 24 Songs. So check it out, and if you like the podcast, it would be amazing if you can subscribe and share it with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
Fresh off the back of support slots in the Ulster Hall and the Olympia Theatre with Nothing But Thieves, we've got an interview with Bangor-based four-piece The Florentinas. Aaron Cavan has taken a deep dive with the band to find out their influences and ambitions. Greta Van Fleet are among the bands to announce new tour dates this week. They'll play Dublin in June next year. Check out the dates and our review of their latest album on the website. There are new dates as well for Alt J, Placebo, The Eagles, Rod Stewart, Franz Ferdinand, Machine Head, The Enemy and Will's Music Prize nominee, The Anchoress. Finally, Stereophonics are back with a new single. Do You Feel My Love is the second song from an album with a name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. That's due out in March. The single is streaming now though at xsnoize.com.
Starsailor are set to release a 20th anniversary deluxe edition version of their debut album, Love Is Here. Originally released in 2001, Love Is Here saw the band establish themselves as a force to be reckoned with, reaching number 2 in the UK album chart and winning them a worldwide fan base. I caught up with Starsailor frontman James Walsh to talk about the release and much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Music Podcast with Starsailor's James Walsh. Hi James, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
It's good to be here.
Starsailor are set to release a 20th anniversary deluxe edition version of your debut album, Love Is Here, on 10th of December. Can you believe it's been 20 years since it's been released?
No, the time's absolutely flown by. I think it makes me feel quite old to think that I'm old enough to have done something in my adult life, so 20 years ago. But yeah, it's been a great experience revisiting the record and hearing from people how much it still means to them.
Yeah, it's a great album. I mean, what can you remember about recording the album in Rockfield with Steve Osborne?
I remember it was a great experience, like the first time we'd been anywhere like that with that rich history and amazing gear, and it was great as well because at the time we were in London a lot and surrounded by sort of A&R tussles, and we went to the Brit Awards and God knows what. So it was nice to escape the pressures of being this band that there was all this expectation on. I thought it was a great move to go away to rural Wales and make a record in complete isolation, because I can imagine that if we'd done it at Abbey Road or somewhere like that, there would have been people from all walks of life kind of, not least from the label and the PR and wherever, kind of coming in and out and wanting to hear stuff and commenting on how things were going. And so it was great to be left to our own devices, and it was great that the label trusted in Steve Osborne as well to deliver the goods for us and with us.
Yeah, and Steve Osborne's a great producer. And you said there was a great expectation. Did you feel pressure going into the studio to record the album?
Yeah, it's a little bit, because the Fever EP had done really well, and we'd been on Top of the Pops and just mental things like that. Yeah, we didn't want to let people down. We didn't want. It's like anything, you try and put across a very confident and swaggering persona towards your music and your confidence in it. I think everyone's got a little bit of doubt in them that, like I say, you just don't want to let people down who've. And I think a lot of the pressure that's kind of heaped upon you as well as a band is almost impossible to fulfill. Some of it was incredible, like the best new band in Britain, and just all these monikers that were tagged to us that creates a lot of hype and creates a lot of negativity as well from people that maybe don't agree with that statement. So it was nice, again, like I say, to be away from that, to be in a bubble away from that. And the only pressure, as long as we could keep the other pressures at arm's length, was to make a great record on our own terms, and that's what we managed to do.
Well, how complete were the songs before you went into the studio?
Good Souls has been around since I was 17. So that was done. Fever, Alcoholic, Lullaby. I'd say 50-50. I remember specifically we had a film crew in making a documentary about the making of the album. And they asked me to sit on a stool and just play something so they could check their cameras. And I started playing the chords I hadn't written this song before this moment, but I started playing the songs to Way to Fall. And then the first couple of lyrics came to me, and I immediately thought, oh, there's something in that, and went away and kind of finished that song, presented it to the band later that evening, and that made the album. So She Just Wept as well was another one that was written in the studio, and just it felt like a time where, because people believe so much in the sound of the band, there was less criticism and scrutiny over the songwriting, because, like I say, people kind of, and not to say that we didn't put a lot into it and care deeply about it, but I feel like when a band's going through a more difficult period, then, to put it bluntly, labels are looking for hits. Whereas when there's a lot of hype around a band, then anything that is part of that sound and is in that world is more accepted and more kind of celebrated even. Sorry, that feels like a slightly rambling.
Good. I remember first hearing your second single, Good Souls, on the radio and thinking, wow, what's this? Hear this band. It was the first time I'd heard anything from Starsailor. And I thought, this is an absolutely great song. Yeah, did you know it was a great song when you wrote it? Yeah,
we were pretty confident in it. It was the one song as well when we were doing early gigs before we'd written Lullaby or Alcoholic or any of the other songs. It would always go down better than anything else in the set. So we struggled for a while to write anything to match it. And I think it was because we were constantly trying to almost rewrite Good Souls, which wasn't the right approach, because it's such a unique song that anything that sort of approaches that sound or that melodic structure is just going to be a kind of rehash of it. So it was when we stopped. We went through a series of different electric guitar players, that never quite suited the band or the sound. And it was when we stopped doing that and refocused the sound on the acoustic and brought Barry in on the keyboards that we hit upon something a bit more sensitive and focused on the songs rather than big riffs and sort of on stage energy. And that's really where the sound of the band kind of, or at least the early years of the band, came from, that combination of piano, acoustic guitar and bass and drums, which wasn't that common at the time. It was I say it wasn't that common. There seemed to be a flourish of bands. It wasn't that common prior to us and Elbow, and during breaks breaking through. That, like a lot of things, is even if bands don't necessarily know about each other, it's weird how different movements in music kind of come about. So, but yeah, going back to your original question, we sort of have that confidence in Good Souls, and it felt like something special. And like I say, it just took a bit of a while to get other songs to match it. And like I say, that came about when we stopped trying, really. Not stopped trying.
Yeah. No, it's a great song, and it still stands out today. I mean, also, Love Is Here reached number 2 in the UK album charts and featured UK top 40 singles, Fever, Good Souls, Alcoholic, Lullaby, and Pure Misguided Fool, with Alcoholic hitting the number 10 chart. Now, when I first heard Alcoholic, nobody was writing songs about being an alcoholic. It was like, I had the same sort of vibe that when I first heard the Verve's The Drugs Don't Work. You don't hear song titles like The Drugs Don't Work or Alcoholic. It was quite refreshing to hear a song called Alcoholic.
It's a song that's kind of brought its own pressures in that respect, because people have related to that song who've been through far more traumatic experiences related to alcohol than I have. From my point of view, it was an observation of various different stories that I heard and things that I saw around town. Whereas people have come up to me and say, my dad is an alcoholic or was an alcoholic, and I really relate to that song. I think it's the benefit of youth as well, where you're less sort of wary of delving into difficult subjects, because you're more confident in your opinions and your ideas around them. So it didn't feel uncomfortable to write a song like that. And thankfully, the lyrics do still hold up. And like I say, people have related to it. And for me, that song is Designed for Life by the Manic Street Preachers. It just, when I first heard that song, I was like, that sounds like nothing else I've ever come across. And the political nature of it is like nothing else I've ever heard. And it's definitely an inspiration to write outside of the comfort zone of I love you, you love me, you broke my heart, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was just so refreshing to hear a song like that, with a song title like that, And
yeah, everything
went a bit mad for Starsailor. How did it feel being in the middle of it, having all the success on your first album?
It's surprising how quickly you get used to it, and you're already thinking about the next stage. And I think maybe too many people sort of went along with that, or maybe got carried away even with that idea that, like, we've sold out Brixton Academy on this tour, we're going to sell out Wembley Arena on the next one, and the next thing you know, you're going to be at Wembley Stadium or whatever. So yeah, and like having number 2 album, it sounds ridiculous to say it now, but having number 2 albums, we were disappointed that they weren't number 1 albums. Whereas now you look back and think that was an amazing achievement, and we should be incredibly proud of it. But the label and everyone around us really was like, apart from a few people who, I remember Jeff Barrett from Heavenly Records. He was really good at keeping our feet on the ground, and he was one of the few kind of voices saying, listen, this isn't going to last forever. Enjoy it while it's happening and appreciate it. And because everyone else, like I say, was kind of, just felt like this was only the start of the journey. And obviously it was in some respects, because we've carried on and we've had our ups and downs, but it felt like people thought it was the start of a journey that was just going to go up and up and up. And we, like I say, we got carried away with that, and we thought, this is just going to get better and better. So we maybe weren't prepared for the slight bumps in the road that are inevitable of any band's career, apart from maybe Coldplay and The Killers. There's only a few exceptions of bands whose careers have just maintained a high level for the whole time.
Yeah, U2, I would put them in there.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rolling Stones. There's a few. There's definitely a few, but there's far more bands who have a glory period, and the rest of the time is kind of, you're appreciative of the long term and the passionate fans that keep you going, really.
And you mentioned at the start Top of the Pops, and I think we're probably around about the same age. Grew up watching Top of the Pops. You never missed it every Thursday night. You know, can you remember your first performance on Top of the Pops, and what was that like? It
was pretty surreal, really. I used to love Top of the Pops because you'd be there with S Club 7, Kylie Minogue, and just a diverse range of people. And it was a great time for music because it wasn't segregated. It wasn't pop bands over here, rock bands over here. You'd be on CD UK with Muse, and Natasha Bedingfield would have the dressing room next door, and it was like a really good and diverse time for music. Mystique and acts like that as well. It was... I didn't expect to mention, I don't know where that's come from. I didn't expect to mention Mystique in this interview.
Natasha Bedingfield, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, but it was an exciting time because it felt like rock music and indie music was completely part of the mainstream and part of this everything that's going on. You see it a little bit more now with Sam Fender's success. He's kind of been on a few big TV shows and is making great music and is part of the big machine as well. So it was a crazy time.
And how do you feel when you listen back to the album now? Because I'm sure, like most bands or artists, once it's done, you don't listen to it. But how do you feel listening to it now? I'm sure you had listened to it for the anniversary edition. And when you listen to it, what do you think of your songwriting from back then? Are you proud of it? You know, or is there any songs you would leave off or change?
No, I think I'm incredibly proud of it, and I think it captures that moment. I added a new verse to Alcoholic. I felt that it's maybe too judgmental in a way, whereas now not with my own experiences, I've not had any problems with alcohol, but just being a bit older and seeing the bigger picture, I thought it necessary to kind of show that things aren't completely black and white, and people who have problems with alcohol, it's not necessarily always their fault, and they're not necessarily always these problematic and people who are sort of beyond help. Because I think Alcoholic on its own, without that sort of nuance, is maybe a bit more kind of, I guess it's just focused on the person on the receiving end of those issues without paying too much attention to someone who's going through it themselves.
What were you listening to back then? What was inspiring your writing?
Jeff Buckley was a big influence. Van Morrison, we covered Van Morrison. The Way Young Lovers Do was one of the B-sides.
I really enjoy your version of The Way Young Lovers Do from Astral Weeks, which Jeff Buckley has also covered. Now, I know you're a big fan, as you said, of Jeff Buckley, and Grace is one of your favourite albums, same as me. Mm-hmm. Which version did you hear first, Van's or Jeff's?
Jeff's, to be honest. I think it's on the Live at Sinead record.
Yeah.
The Van Morrison song that was a big part of my youth was "And It Stoned Me."
Yeah,
it was on the jukebox in our local pub, and everyone would put it on all the time because I don't think it's not even about getting stoned. I think it's stoned, and it stoned me is more a kind of it hit me. It kind of it lifted me or whatever. But I think at the time everyone thought it was about getting stoned, so we just put it on the jukebox all the time. But prior to that as well, Oasis, Blur, Pulp, that was the music that got me first passionate and into music. And although I'd maybe moved on from that a little bit when the band were making Love Is Here, I don't think your formative influences never quite go away. So that I'm sure there was a bit of that, the Britpop sound crept through as well.
You mentioned Oasis. Didn't you have a bit of a spat with Noel Gallagher back in the day?
Yeah.
What was that all about?
He'd basically had a go at us in the press, and I walked past him at a festival, and I thought, I want to get to the bottom of this, because at the time, I think I was quite sensitive, to be honest, and I wasn't as able to take things with a pinch of salt as maybe I am now. I took any sort of criticism to heart, which you still do, but you kind of take a deep breath and think, what's it going to help kind of pulling someone up on this? At the time, it was just like, no, if you've got a problem with me, then let's have it, sort of thing. Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think he even remembered saying anything. Mm-hmm. So it all became this sort of storm in a teacup, and his brother got involved, and it blew over almost as soon as it had kicked off. But for about 24 hours, we were in all the tabloids. It was mental.
A lot of bands see that as a badge of honour if Noel Gallagher slags them off.
Yeah. We've done a couple of gigs with Liam since, which is weird. So yeah, Liam's obviously not got so much of a problem with us, which is, and Liam's making some great music now. So we did a show with him in Istanbul that was amazing.
Yeah, he's doing good stuff. And I mean, you write songs for the band, you do solo stuff as well, and other people, obviously. When you're writing songs, what do you think is the most important? A great melody or a great lyric?
For me, a great melody. I think historically that's been sort of proven as well. Mark Bolan springs to mind. His songs are all about the energy and the melody and the whole package. If you wrote a Mark Bolan song down and read the lyrics, like, I drive a Rolls Royce because it's good for my voice. Like, it's absolute nonsense. But it's in combination with the lyric and his performance, it's just iconic and amazing. And I think an amazing lyric without that melody, it's a lot harder to, unless it's poetry, it's a lot harder to project. Yeah, I think you can have a sort of throwaway lyric with an amazing melody, but it's more difficult to have an amazing lyric that just doesn't translate if someone's not singing a good. It doesn't have to be an elaborate melody, just a a catchy one, a one that connects. Also with language as well, people who don't necessarily speak English can relate to the feeling of a song and a melody if it's arranged right and the melody's good. But if it's crap and the words are in a language they don't understand, then they're not going to get anything from it.
Well, talking about arranging, the new anniversary edition comes with demo sessions, recordings, and 5 new specially recorded tracks from the album. Did you enjoy going back to those songs and rearranging them?
Yeah, it was. It's quite a challenging experience because those songs mean so much to people in their original incarnations, and some songs were more difficult than others. But it was a really satisfying feeling to get to a point where we felt that we'd changed the song enough that it was worthwhile for people to hear it, but maintain some of the spirit of the original. So I remember recording Way to Fall, like hitting upon the way to do that. It was a lot more stark and acoustic and intimate. And everyone in the studio was felt like that was a moment, and we'd really breathe new life into that song.
I love the new version of the title track, "Love Is Here." It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the sound textures in the background.
Yeah, it's nice to hear from someone that's listened to them, because we've not played them to that many people, so it's good to hear that. And I think I'd listened to a lot of Bon Iver and Bruce Hornsby, and with that song, it felt like those kind of Bruce Springsteen as well. Those sort of soft synth sounds were coming a lot more back into fashion, and can bring a lot of, what's the word? I can't think of the word. But it's funny how something so mechanical like a synth. I think the Killers are brilliant at it as well.
Yeah,
something so mechanical can bring so much emotion to a song, whereas traditionally we associate emotion with guitars and violins and the most organic instruments you can find. It's quite nice when something more modern kind of equally brings as much power and emotion to the table.
Looking back on that era of the band, what was your highlights?
That era of the band, it's quite difficult because my timeline's a bit hazy. I think getting a deal was a massive highlight. Just a magical sort of moment to be able to pack in our jobs and go throw ourselves wholeheartedly into this incredible moment and chance to tour the world. And I remember, what else? Getting the cover of the NME was pretty special as well. I'd grown up reading the NME and reading about bands and thinking it'd be amazing. There used to be, I think it was actually the Melody Maker. I remember they had a demos section, and I thought it would be an achievement. It'd be amazing to be, I think it was called Holly's Demo Hell. I thought it'd be an amazing, it'd be an achievement to get a track in that, to get the demo reviewed in that, let alone be on the cover of the magazine, was just insane. So obviously we went out, and our parents and our friends bought every copy going around Chorley and Wigan and Warrington. Yeah. And the first tour we did in Ireland, actually, with Doves, was a great experience as well, because I think that was the first time we got to travel somewhere outside of our own sort of country and where we grew up, and realize that we're spending our time kind of hanging out in Dublin and Belfast, and we even stopped through this obscure place called Tubber Curry. We were had somewhere down south.
Right.
We were in Derry, and it was just amazing to think we're actually getting paid. We weren't even getting paid that much, but we were just like, we're getting paid for this. And we're drinking great Guinness, and we're hanging out with the Dubs, and we've got a dressing room. And yeah, I think those three things spring to mind, really. The getting signed, the cover of The Enemy, and doing that first tour outside of England with the Dubs.
Now, I know you used to live here. You used to live in Ballymena, hey?
Yeah.
I'm sure you must have, I know you live in England now, but I'm sure you miss an Ulster Fry, do you?
Yeah, I do, yeah. I think you need that soda bread and the potato bread that they can't quite do as well over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And the Guinness as well. The Guinness is miles better. Some would argue the Guinness is better in the north than the south. The Harbour Bar in Portrush is a good place for a pint of Guinness.
Yes, it's a good spot.
What would you say was like the quintessential difference, or the thing that what is it, the breads basically that makes it an Ulster Fry different to a full English?
Yeah, potato bread and soda bread, and no beans.
Yeah,
and maybe some black pudding and Cookstown sausages. They're taking the album on tour in December, a short tour. Are there any plans to extend that beyond December?
Hopefully, yeah, because I think hopefully it'll go really well, and everyone will like. It'd be great to go back to Ireland and play in Dublin and Belfast, because like I say, we've had great experiences playing there in the past. Get into Europe as well. I guess this tour is kind of testing the water to see what the reaction's like, and yeah, it's a special record, so we think it's definitely got legs to kind of carry on into next year.
And will you be performing the album in order?
Yeah. I think it's quite, it sort of adds to the nostalgia and the reminiscence of people to hear it in the way it was recorded.
I suppose Good Souls gets the biggest reception live.
Yeah. It's been quite funny playing that so early in the set, because we do it the running order of the album, like you say. So it's, but it still works. It's a nice kind of high early on in the set instead of towards the end. And we've still got Silence is Easy and Force to the Floor to come as well. Yeah.
Two belter tracks, absolutely.
Cheers.
Are there any plans to record new Starsailor material after the tour?
Yeah, hopefully. I think we've got the material together in terms of the songwriting. The songs are ready to go. The difficulty is just finding the right home for them, like in terms of a label or backers, so we can get them out to as many people as possible.
And you've just put out another solo album. Everything's going to be okay. How's things going with that? It's a great album.
Oh, thank you. Obviously, that stuff has got a kind of smaller audience, so it's great when people pick up on it. Yeah, it's going really well. It's I enjoy it. It's definitely a less pressured environment than doing the Starsailor stuff. Yeah, I'm just able to record at home and release what I write and record quite easily and quickly, and it's growing with each release, and it's a nice kind of organic thing that's happening with it. So yeah, I appreciate it. When I think the thing with the band as well is because we've had that success, there's more pressure that everything is up to a certain level or does reasonably well, whereas the solo stuff is it's kind of more the beginnings of that, and it's got more room to grow, I guess.
I like to ask my guests the following questions. Out of all the music in your collection, which artist or band do you have the most albums by?
That's a good question. The Charlatans, I think. Telling Stories is my favourite record of theirs, and the self-titled album as well, with Just When You're Thinking Things Over on it. I've got quite a few Bruce Springsteen albums as well. Loads of Jeff Buckley bootlegs, and obviously his 2 release album.
Which song or album is your guilty pleasure?
Probably ABBA Gold or something like that. I'm trying to think what else is. I guess Glenn Campbell was a guilty pleasure until recently, when he's had more of a resurgence, and it's become a bit cooler to listen to Glenn Campbell. A lot of country music, really. Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash. I love all that stuff. I was just going to say, there's definitely still people who'll tell you that country music's naff and you shouldn't be listening to it. So I guess that could be a guilty pleasure as well.
What have you been listening to recently that you could recommend to listeners?
Sam Fender. I probably don't need to recommend him because he's doing amazingly well.
Yeah.
Maybe something a bit more obscure. Anais Mitchell is a singer from America. Again, sort of country folk tinged stuff. She wrote a musical about called Hadestown, about the Greek myth. And she's worked with Bon Iver and Big Red Machine, the Nationals kind of side project thing. She's got a new album coming out soon, and all her back catalogue's amazing too. So yeah, Anais Mitchell, Amy Mann, yeah, Phoebe Bridgers, another one who probably doesn't need a leg up, but is definitely an artist making great music at the moment.
Well, James, that's my questions finished. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you again.
No worries.
I wish you all the best with the new release.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's good chatting to you.